Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru, an American football podcast made in Scotland and Canada by NFL lovers. I'm your host, Stuart. I am first off going to just get this out of the way straight away. The Bengals season is still alive, and we will be talking about that a bit later on, but only just. It's only just alive. Today I'm joined by two of the finest crew members. They are going to give us all of their insights and all of their knowledge and help us kind of just through this Week 11 preview. So first off, I've got Mikey. Mikey, how you doing?
I'm delighted to be on the pod the week after Lamar nails down his 6-1 record against the Bengals and Joey Burrow. So yes, appreciate me coming on this week. Looking forward to.
Yeah, you know what? It was an absolutely fantastic game. Look, I know we could go into complaints about referees and all that and everything, but either way, it was like both teams offensive powerhouses kind of thing. Like our defense definitely couldn't get a stop there at the end, but fair play to Lamar, like he found a way around it and all that.
Do you know, Joe? In a way, I was kind of like the whole thing about them going for two. If they'd have went for two and got it, I was like, there was still would have been like 30 odd seconds, and I was kind of annoyed that I was like, I would have liked to have seen what Lamar would have get down to see if Tucker could kick. After especially the first game where it was the field goal miss and stuff, I was like, yeah. But listen, if every game was like that and every week and we had a game like that, as fans, we would love it. So my heart wouldn't, but yeah. That would be good.
No, definitely. It was pretty exciting. I mean, also just on that 2-point conversion as well, I remember I was watching it with a buddy here kind of thing. Like we'd headed out to have a burger and kind of watch the game, and when it got to the end, like one of the points I'd made to him was like, this is shades of what Baltimore did a few years ago. Remember when they kept going for 2 points and they kept losing games by a point by doing it? And it was kind of one of those things of like, well, why would you not just kick it with Tucker? Like it's Tucker. I know he missed a game. He missed a kick against us in that last game there, but he's usually Mr. Automatic. So the fact that it didn't work out for us kind of just said to me, I was like, why? I guess it's good to aspire to be the Ravens sometimes, but to me, I was kind of going like, well, why wouldn't you just kick it and then just try and get the stop and then force it to overtime and then who knows? But anyway, that was last week, so we should probably start talking this week. Our next guest on the show is Andy. Andy coming at us all the way from Inverness. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, thank you, and glad to be on the show. And it looks like we've got a good slate of games ahead, so yeah, just looking forward to covering them and see what you guys have to say about it.
No, for sure. You also must be pretty happy after Sunday night. That was also another like absolutely barnstorming, exciting game. Had a few twists for the Lions.
It's like it was honestly at halftime. I thought it was like dead and buried. It was one of the weirdest games I've probably watched in the last few years, to be honest. Just because of the amount of interceptions, probably, and still to come out with a win's brilliant. I suppose keep it going and keep that one seed at the moment.
No, for sure. Like, yeah, you guys are looking good in the NFC, so but getting on to another couple of teams that we'll just get into the games for this week. But immediately, Thursday night football is happening tonight as we're recording this podcast now, and for anyone listening live. So the game tonight is between two of the teams that are also right there, right at the top of the NFC, and also fighting each other for that kind of top of the division spot, and that's the Eagles versus the Commanders. That's happening in Philadelphia. Mike, what do you make of this one, or what's your kind of main thoughts on what's going to be happening in this game, or the main talking points?
My big thing on it is I'm still a little bit unsure about the Eagles. It's for me, I'm like, are they back or are they not? Or are they seem to be showing flashes, and they seem to be showing the kind of, I don't know, I think it's a fitness thing for some of their key players as well, which is because sometimes I'll tune in and I'll watch them and I'm like, they look really good, but I mean, I don't know, you watch the Commanders and like they went and got Marshall Lattimore just before the trade, and I don't know if I think they've looked at that and thought about their slate of games that are coming up in particular, and just the Commanders are playing really well. I am looking forward to it. I think it's two of the better teams in the kind of in the NFC. So it should be good because it's like a young pretender against like Hurts and his experience and the wide receivers and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be quite a good one. But I mean, the Eagles have also, like I said about health, they've got people coming back off of IR and fitness and stuff. So that's got to be key for them on the running. So that'll be probably telling if they can get them up to speed on their slate of games that they've got coming up.
Yeah, 100%. Andy, like obviously, you know, as we've mentioned, Detroit are currently top of the standings and all that, but you must be kind of viewing this one as almost like a kind of preview of potential playoff matchups for you in the future, kind of thing, like heading into it. If things go, I'm not trying to curse you here and all that, because I know what it's like to be playoff cursed. But you know, it's what do you make of both these teams, and like what do you see as the biggest strengths for both of them?
Yeah, I think we're looking at two playoff teams. I'd be a bit more concerned about the Eagles at the moment. Sort of what Mikey said. Are they the real deal? Are they not? I'm kind of maybe a step ahead in that I do believe in them. I'm not a massive Jalen Hurts fan, but you know, Barkley on the ground and through the air. And AJ Brown coming back. You've got Devontae Smith, and it's just a plethora of talent that they can use on offense. And defensively, they've been a lot better in recent weeks. I think Zach Bond in the middle, the linebacker, sort of flashed quite a bit. And a team that are definitely on the rise and not really one you want to come across down the sort of back stretch at the moment.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, you know, just quickly kind of looking at the records here, like the Eagles have won 5 in a row, and currently as it sits, like granted they've played 9 games as opposed to the Commanders, they've played 10, but the Eagles as it stands right now, they've only conceded 161 points, so that's like second best in the conference. The only team that has a better defensive record than them is the Vikings. I think in there conceded 157, also haven't played 9 games, so it's kind of almost directly comparable. So, you know, to me, I kind of look at it and go, well, the Eagles have kind of got that defensive side, especially in that 5-game win streak. They really seem to have kind of locked down the defense now, whereas the Commanders, as we know, they're usually an all-out kind of offensive cavalcade of fun. Although the Steelers did shut them down last week. So this, to me, I think this is another, I guess, a big kind of barometer and measuring stick for that young Commanders team, or, you know, young quarterback in Daniels, and seeing how far he's came or how far he can go, I think, in the league. So it should be, I think, an absolute barnstormer again tonight, which, you know, follows on last week.
Yeah, I was just about to jump in and say the Commanders should have Brian Robinson back this week as well. So from a running point of view, I know you and I chat and mention about time of possession all the time. Yeah, that's key for them in terms of getting running game going, especially because the Eagles will probably look to, I mean, Andy mentioned it there, the Eagles' first month of the season were like low in the defensive stats, but obviously since they've started winning, they've shot up to one of the highest graded defenses. Now that helps that their offense is on the field more. And I mean, that's key for a lot. So I think if Commanders can get a wee run game and going as well, then that should help them.
No, definitely. It's but yeah, this one should be an exciting one, and we're going to probably move on quickly here to the next game. And Mikey, this one will be near and dear to your heart, and for that reason, I'll probably start with Andy on it. So next game, one of the early slot on the Sunday, we have the Ravens traveling to the Steelers. And Andy, as we just mentioned there, like with the Commanders and the Eagles, it's kind of a, you know, adequate, or I mean, I feel bad saying this about Hurts, but it's like adequate offense with very good defense versus an amazing offense with not very good defense. And it's kind of almost similar in this one, isn't it? Like with the way the Steelers have lined up and the way the Ravens have been so far.
Yeah, but I like the Ravens in this one. I still think whatever is going on the defensive side of the ball, they can overcome it on the offensive side of the ball. They do still have the talent on defense. It's just not working. It's quite surprising for me because, you know, I always associate the Ravens as a tough team, no matter what. Hard to pass against, hard to run against as well. I would think that's going to get fixed, sort of coming down the stretch as well. But this is quite the test for them, really, isn't it? Up against a Steelers team that, yeah, Najee Harris, he's been He's been thereabouts the last sort of few weeks, running the ball, and obviously got Pickens deep, and as well as Mike Williams as well. They traded for, so it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. Like on the running game for the Steelers as well. Like I know Harris missed a game on Wednesday, missed a practice on Wednesday. I think he's dealing with an ankle injury right now, but he's still expected to play this Sunday. Jalen Warren, though, has came back the last few weeks, so he's kind of really lightened the load for him a bit. So they have that kind of two-headed monster thing going on there. Like Mikey, like, you know, we'll let you talk about the Steelers first here. Like, what are you most worried about, and what do you think the Ravens can target most in this game?
The worry for me is that the Steelers are adequate, I think, in a lot of facets of their game. They've got an exceptional defense, right? And they've normally got that Watt and kind of what's his name?
Highsmith.
Highsmith on the other side. So
Boswell, kickers in the brain with me.
Yeah. So he picked up an injury last week, and obviously that might help in terms of that. But I mean, their defense is still legit. They cover well. Unfortunately, they've got Patrick Queen and they've got Deshaun Elliott. They've got ex-Ravens. And there's been a lot of chippiness in chat this week, etc. But you expect that from the Steelers Ravens. I am slightly worried about how their defense lines up, but then again, it's the counter. It's as equal as their defense. The Ravens have played a lot of good teams to start with. This is the Steelers' first division game in this week, and that to me is mental. When most of the other division teams in the AFC North have played 2-3 like this. This is the Ravens who played the Bengals twice, the Browns, and then on the Steelers. So it'll be a good measure from the Steelers to see where they are, because as you know, the AFC North division kind of determines who's in there. The concern I do have is the Steelers have had the Ravens number. I think they're like 7-1 or something. They've just now. Granted, you take that with a pinch of salt, because a lot of the time it's been Ravens backups or third strings and all that, and it's been Mitch Trubisky and all that that's beat them. But still, it still counts. Still counts as Ravens Steelers. And there's the adage that John Harbaugh always says is, you're not a Raven until you win against the Steelers. There's a few players there who have played them a few times who haven't beat the Steelers yet. So so that will be interesting. The interesting thing I did learn this week is that as bad as our defense has seemed from the outside, individually, when you look at the stats and the coverage stats for a lot of the players, some players are playing exceptionally high at a high level. We have had a lot of burst plays, like absolutely stupid coverages and bursts, and unfortunately, short passes in the middle, where we lost Patrick Queen and where we've had a lot of communication issues. And that has been telling in terms of the pass defense, if you like. I mean, they're nearly at the top with the rush defense and so bad with the pass defense. So it's that. I'm glad Andy said it, because I think I'm kind of similar, that a lot of these players will get better as time comes. And I mean, we're now going into this week, and the Ravens haven't had a bye yet. We don't have a bye till week 14. So it's telling that we've had a little bit of a mini bye with the whole, like, not playing the Bengals week past Thursday. So it will be, I think it'll be decided on what Ravens defense shows up. And not necessarily it'll be like, I think it should be scoring, but the key thing I do see is I think these games are generally decided between less than kind of a score, like 4 points or more, always swings it. And it's a flip of the coin when it comes to AFC North, I always feel. I mean, I'm only a few weeks removed from Brian's Browns beating us, so I'm like,
at least the thing with the Browns is at least you're well clear for them, so it's not like head to head won't really matter come the end of the year. Sorry, Brian. I guess, like, on that though, Mikey, like, you know, I take it you have or who do you have winning it?
Well, for me, there's a little bit of an element of a point to prove just now from Lamar especially. Derek Henry's came in, and I mean Lamar won again, another AFC Player of the Week, and he just seems to be playing at a level that is higher than everybody. And ultimately, for me, if our O-line can hold up the Steelers' D-line, and Lamar can do what he wants to do with, we've got Likely's come back this week. We've got. When have you ever heard me say that, or any Ravens fans say that we've got two wide receivers for the Ravens in the top 16 in the league? It's like it doesn't happen. So it's if Lamar plays to what he's been doing in the tear up, I think it'll be a struggle, because I really don't think Wilson and the Steelers offense can keep up, because they haven't scored a lot of points. But equally, on the flip side, is if they haven't allowed a lot of points. So it is that kind of, it's a flip of a coin. And ultimately, I look at it and think it's a game against the Steelers. It's probably going to decide who wins the AFC North. And it'll decide who maybe has the lower seeds in it. So, because I think we're all the other seeds will be pretty much set up. But yeah, I'm quietly hoping that all my other UK Ravens fans who are on watch parties and meets this weekend get some joy. We'll just need to wait and see. And let's see how it goes at the weekend. But yeah, I would love Derek Henry to confirm himself as a Raven by beating the Steelers. So
yeah. That'd be good. Andy, how do you have this one going?
Yeah, I've got Ravens as well in this one. It's a Deontay Johnson revenge game, is it? I don't know if you'd even label it. But I wonder, it'll be interesting to see if he can get in the mix and get involved in the passing game. I think the Ravens O-line sort of improved last couple of weeks, hasn't it? Sort of shoring up a wee bit. But obviously they'll have their hands full this week. But yeah, I've still got the Ravens within maybe a score, like you said, 5-6 points, something like that.
Yeah.
There is an interesting thing, Stu, that the Ravens have been penalised 80 times this season. So they're like way by and far higher than most teams in the league.
They love a flag.
And illegal formations you can take, because obviously it's the offense is a bit quirky at times. But see some of the flags that like happen that are just needless and can turn games. That when it's Ravens Steelers,
let's maybe not talk about flags on defense in turned games, because there was some that weren't thrown the other week that maybe could have. Anyway, I'm over it. But no, for me, I think I look at this one, and I guess like from a Bengals standpoint, I would want the Ravens to win, because you definitely have the head-to-head over us, because you beat us twice. So really, if we're in any sort of kind of wildcard conversation, I need the Ravens to win the division, and I need the Bengals to beat the Steelers twice to have the head on them, to have, basically to improve our chances of making it. There's still a path there to do it if the Ravens finish second. On how I think the game's going to go, though, just so we don't have the clean house and we're boring, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm going to put faith in Tomlin and his defence and his ability to stymie things, which is probably ridiculously stupid, because I agree that, like, for me, I think it's down to Burrow and Lamar for the MVP this year. But I think Lamar's probably in the driving seat for it, seeing as his team's record's better, and it has been on the strength of him driving the offense. And also, side note to obviously King Henry as well. He's been great too. But I'm going to go Steelers for this one, though, just purely based on defense, even though that does not help the Bengals at all.
No, I do think if there's one coach that sees a lot more of Lamar than everybody and is always so complimentary of him and talks him up slightly too much, and it's like you just like say something bad so you can get revenge, but he never does, is Tomlin, and he's a great coach. So we shall see come 6 p.m. on Sunday who's up for it. But yeah,
I think it should be a good game either way. Now, moving on to a couple of teams with struggling O-lines who are looking to kind of get back or kind of just continue winning, or actually get some more wins heading into the season. We have the Rams heading to New England to play the Patriots. Andy, what have you made of Drake May so far since he's kind of stepped in that starter's role for the Patriots?
I think it's been promising, hasn't it? Really, especially when you consider the line in front of him and the sort of receiving corps he has. It's been positive, but it has been a lot of these sort of spectacular plays that aren't really sustainable over a sort of a long period, like a long stretch of time. But yeah, he's definitely flashed quite a bit, and I think it's promising for the future for New England to know. Well, maybe not know just yet, but it looks like they might have a franchise QB on their hands.
Yep, no, I think he's looked kind of really good, and it's one of those things where, like, even with that O line and the way they've been performing, like he's really kind of done quite well, and that was my big worry for him heading in there, and why I thought it was like so smart of him starting out Brissett in the first place was like just let him learn the system for a bit and don't throw him out there to get absolutely smoked, kind of thing in the first few games. So I think they have they could build on here. Now, Mike, on the Rams side, they're another team that seem to have absolutely abysmal O-line play. Although, by the stats, they were apparently a bit better this weekend, but I was still seeing Stafford pressured quite a bit, kind of like more than you would want. So it was interesting to hear that, this is them looking pretty good compared to what they have. So I thought, like, I haven't seen that many like Rams games other than the highlights so far. So it was interesting to me to see that. What do you make of the Rams' chances? Kind of thing. They're still kind of hanging in there. Like, that division is sort of eeksy peeksy. Yeah. Stafford's good and Cup's back and Puka's back. But what do you think?
I just think the Rams for me are just underwhelming this year. And I'm like, they just offer so much, and you look at them and you go, McVay, yeah, good. But red zone, they've just been terrific. They've just not delivered when weirdly over, and that might be down to the line. I don't know. I don't watch enough of them, but I've just every time I've kind of seen them in the red zone, it seems like they stutter and then they fall and they don't seem to. And I'm like, which is weird because the Rams for me just now their defense is flashing a little bit more than their offense, which is mad to say when you've got Stafford and Puka and Cup and you've got all these guys in your life.
Like Tutu Atwell and that, like they kind of in when Cup and Puka were gone, and he did a pretty good job. They've got Kyron Williams as well, kind of thing, like running back.
Yeah.
He's still running a lot, but he's kind of been a bit more suppressed this year.
He was on that run where he was scoring every week, wasn't he? It was like I was trying to grab him in every trade opportunity I could in fantasy, and nobody would to give me him. Yeah. And he's dropped, so I'm like, phew. But
I don't know. Maybe now's the time to buy, just because stocks low. Trade deadlines this week, Mike.
Yeah, I know. So, but yeah, they've offensively, I think they've got a lot of. I don't know, and I don't know if they just the Dolphins game the other night. I had them as a banker to beat the Dolphins because they've been and they never. I was like, okay, so, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting with the Pats because obviously they've had a little mini resurgence. They've obviously leaned heavily on like Sir Hunter Henry, who's done great as a comfort blanket. He's just so experienced and he's done well, but. As I said, the defense from the Rams have got a couple of good linebackers that are popping, so that intermediate battle will be decent in terms of Drake May and who does he go to if Hunter Henry's getting kind of picked up and all that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, just about the Rams. It's quite interesting you touched on it, Mikey. It's like the start of the season, Stafford was sort of flying, wasn't he? And he was zipping everywhere, and the offense was sort of really clicking. I know they had injuries to the receivers, and then as soon as the defense sort of figures it out, it just sort of flips, and they can't get it going in offense. And you've got Jared Verse, I think the rookie, who's really sort of coming into his own now. I think Brandon Fisk as well, their second round pick, or I think he's sort of flashed as well. So it's really positive from that sort of standpoint that they're getting a pass rush and they're getting after folk, but it's to no avail really if you can get it going in offense as well and play sort of complementary football. So I think they'll still get this one across the line. They have to if they're going to keep pace now with the 49ers and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean this thing is like they're sitting right there because I mean they're 4-5. Seahawks are 4-5. Niners are 5-4. So it's like you look at it and go like, well, they're not actually that far out a wild card spot I think so. It's like, or they might even still win one, like depending how the breakdown is. Like,
if you drop this game, it's you can you quickly sort of fall away from the sort of pack, though, can't you? And it's quite competitive at the moment.
Yeah. So you're going Rams.
Yeah.
Mikey, quickly, who are you going in this one?
I can't see the Patriots. I mean, I said this last week when Bears, I didn't think they would win, but they did. But I mean, the Rams are favourites. I probably see that it is just a stretch for the Patriots. So I'll say the Rams, but it'll be a close one, I think. I don't think it'll be a blowout on either side, but I think it'll be close. I think Rams will stutter across the line, if you like.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with. And this will be a unanimous one because I'm going to say Rams as well, which means everybody should back the Patriots.
Yeah, definitely.
One of these things where we curse it by all going the same way, but yeah, I think Rams should win this one, but I still think Drake May comes out of it looking pretty good, and the Patriots should feel good about themselves in the rebuilding year. Now, moving on from that one, we're going to go to another team from that same division. The New York Jets are hosting the Colts. And just before we start on this one, how hilarious would it be if the Patriots won and then the Jets lost, and then the Patriots would be above the Jets in the standing? But anyway,
I'd gladly take all our predictions to be wrong if this ends up happening, because it would just be phenomenal.
It makes for good TV. And it could, sorry, Jets fans. I actually have nothing against Jets fans. I just think that what's happening there right now is it's funny to watch from afar. It's a bit of a car wreck. Andy, what do you make of the Jets car wreck?
Aaron Rodgers not a likable figure for me. So I'm quite what's going on at the moment, especially when it seems like a lot of what's gone on with the Jets, it looks like it's come from his camp. I can't say for sure if it is. Nobody really knows for sure, but when you see the head coach is gone and the sort of trades that they've made to sort of appease him, as it would be, you need to see the results, and they're not happening at the moment. And it's quite crazy, isn't it? And the thing for me as well with Rodgers is he sort of lost that mobility that he used to have in Green Bay. When you think back to what sort of Rodgers used to be, he was a scrambler at times. Sort of what you see with like Mahomes, picking up first downs when he's not expected to get them and just keeping it going. And because he's now lost that, it's just not the same QB we're watching, really, is it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I do think it'll be funny to see, because I saw he was saying today, I would love to play another kind of year or two after this one, and I was just kind of going like, I don't think it's going to be in New York, or at least not with the Jets. Maybe the G-men take a punt on him.
Do you think he said that because he's pretty much wrote off this and he's brought all these pieces, and it's like, well, obviously last year was not great for him with the injury, but I seen that today and thought that's him kind of saying, yeah, it's not happening this year. Give us time and he'll get his people in place and then they'll do it. Because
so Mikey, you're saying what one more Aaron Rodgers friend, just one more Aaron Rodgers friend, and then we'll do it.
Jordy Nelson, where is he?
Actually, side issue to this. This is a long-term crystal ball prediction here. I wonder if the Dallas Cowboys decide to move on from a certain head coach, if that is the Aaron Rodgers friend that will end up.
Do you know the weird thing is like with the Jets whole thing is they got rid of Salah and their defense was great, and then all of a sudden when they get rid of them, their defense then struggles, and then their offense is like, I mean, they're loaded in offense. I mean, some of the players, like, they don't go from having a talented young team for no reason. So something has happened, and the only thing that kind of has happened is Aaron Rodgers. It's like that being said, I'm going to lean on the fact that Garrett Wilson's playing good. Adams is still Adams, and I think, I mean, Indianapolis and them who shall not be named benched #elite Joe Flacco this week and are bringing Richardson back. So
I was going to get to that. Say Andy, or I was going to ask him about the return of the young Richardson kind of thing as quarterback.
So they deserve to lose from my point of view. But I think it'll be one of the games where yeah, I see the Jets for me beating them. They're at home and they should, but yeah, you never know with the Jets.
No, for sure. Andy, just before we get your prediction on the get, because Mikey's going Jets kind of thing. So before we get your prediction, obviously, just as we mentioned there, the Colts have brought back Anthony Richardson. He's out of the wilderness. Flacco failed to deliver the last two games and looked more like old man Flacco rather than the Browns' hero and talisman that kind of powered them all the way to the playoffs last season. What do you make of this return?
It's a bit confusing, really, isn't it? What's going on in it? I've got written down. This is sort of two teams that maybe have kind of lost their identity in some ways. We talked about the defense with the Jets not being as good, and with Indy, I don't really know what's going on there. I mean, this week you bring Richardson and Taylor together can maybe run on the Jets defense a bit. I mean, is that the sort of thinking that
yeah,
this is a game that Richardson could be successful in? I don't know for sure. I have not been impressed with anything really he's done. I mean, obviously he flashed at the very start, a couple of nice deep throws, but other than that, it's been a sort of steep learning curve for him, and I don't know. I'd probably side on the Jets, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. Yeah.
To me, the Jets are like complete Jekyll and Hyde because, I mean, if you look at it, 2 weeks ago, they won and everyone was going like, oh, look, here it is, the Aaron Rodgers Jets. Or, this is who they were always meant to be. Yes, they're, whatever, let's see the stands. I think they were 3-6 after that. Yeah, 3-6. It was like, oh, there they are, they're back. Look, they can play well. Then the next week, they go and play Arizona, who admittedly are having like a fairly decent season. And Arizona just absolutely schooled them. Kind of thing. So it's like, well, which Jet's the real one? And to be honest, it's like that, like losing Jets seems to have been more the case this year. So I would kind of maybe lean more towards that one for me.
The worry I've got is the Colts lost their left tackle last week. And if he's back with Richardson coming back in, it's like, so does he fit? And then also the Colts, is it Kenny Moore from their defense was calling their effort out and saying legitimately he's balled out this year, so he's got a chance. He's a captain, he's allowed to say that, but it's what impact does that have halfway through a season? It's like,
yeah.
So wait and see how Indy fare with it.
I mean, it's one of those things where like the Colts, though, like when you look at it, they're second in their division. They have the same record as the Bengals, like they're 4-6. Broncos are ahead of them in the playoff run, like they're sitting 5-5, but they're also not a great team. They might fall off. So, and it's weird for the Colts because they're kind of caught in that strange kind of purgatory of they're almost, I mean, you could almost say like, oh, they maybe still have a chance, but then you also go, well, they've lost 3 in a row, so they were 4-3, and now they're 4-6. So this is kind of do or die for them this week. And as much as I want Richardson to succeed, I just don't see him as being quite ready yet. I do wonder if maybe the move away from Flacco is actually driven by that left tackle injury you talk about, because Richardson is definitely more mobile than Joe is, kind of thing. So maybe it's a case of like, well, you know what, maybe if he can run around a bit more, he might be able to get some passes off against a vulnerable team in the Jets whose confidence is...
I mean, if he could sell a couple of seconds and then sling it like he's been slinging it, then he's got every chance. Do you know what I mean? So it's whether he keeps his breath and doesn't get tired like he did the other week. So,
I mean, that's why don't they do what we do in the CFL, which is like there's plenty of teams here that they do the 2 quarterback kind of set thing, based on which team you're playing, kind of things. Like BC have made it work with 2 quarterbacks, and I mean they went out, but they made it to the playoffs. And the Elks for parts of the season were doing the same thing. They had the vet like McLeod Bethel Thompson, like who's the 38-year-old veteran, can't move, but like the guy's so accurate, like so he's in there slinging it. And then Trey Ford, he's like the young guy that kind of run. He's kind of like I don't want to say mini because he's huge. He's kind of like a Canadian Football League Lamar, like the way he first came into the league, where he runs around a lot, dynamic. His running game's amazing, but sometimes his passing's not always as accurate as you want it to be, but it's still pretty good, kind of thing. So anyway,
my only concern, just quickly on that, is if Richardson comes in and doesn't have a great game, it's what detriment does that have on his season? And And if it was a Indianapolis against the Bengals or a team that were like expecting to beat them, you'd be like, right, okay, fair enough. But it's a game that's winnable, like you said, because in their division, it's a softer division. It could mean something for them. And if Richardson comes in and doesn't play to a decent level and they lose, it's does that knock him for another few games? And it's a shame because I think the kid's talented. I think he's a good player. So I wouldn't like that to happen because we want to see our best players. So
Okay, so you're going Jets, Mike?
Yeah, I think the Jets will win.
Andy?
Jets as well, yeah.
Okay, this is another unanimous one, just to make it boring. I'm also going to say Jets, but so we don't get the high banter of the Pats winning and then passing them. Nothing in the standings, but anywho, moving on from that one. Next game, we're heading to another couple of teams where one who is really not doing so well and they're plumbing the depths of their division, and that's the Raiders, and they are off to a team that if you squint, they have a chance, and they've got Tua's came back and he has played pretty well the last 2 weeks. Like, you know, they lost to the Bills, but then they obviously won on the Monday night game there against the Rams. So their Raiders are at the Dolphins. Andy, what do you think? Dolphins, like, do you think they have a chance? Can they do it? Can they win their way out and make the playoffs? Because right now they're sitting on 3 wins, but they've only played 9, so they do have that going for them. And
yeah,
exactly great. I'll put it that way too.
I think they can get themselves back in it. They've got the Raiders at home this week. They've got the Pats at home the week after, and I think they've still got the Jets that played twice. So there is definitely a path in there for them to get back in it. Defense looks to be trending in the right direction. I think Zach Sealer came back in last week. He looked pretty good. They sort of held the Rams in check there. So with a defense trending in the right way, and I know Hill's not really got going as such, but he's there, and you've got Waddle. They've got every chance to sort of make a run and be one of those teams that you don't really want to see down the stretch.
Yeah, no, just looking at that schedule that you were saying there, like obviously Raiders, Pats, then where the trouble comes in, it's games like they go away to the Packers on Thursday Night Football week 13. That one's obviously, that's going to be a tough one. But then, yeah, like you say, they play the Jets week 14 and then they close the season out there week 18. So that's actually good for us as viewers because that game's probably going to have a bit of meaning if they're still on the hunt by that point because they'll need to try and win to get in. Who else have they got? They've got not in any order, the other games have got the Browns. That's obviously a winnable one. The Texans, to be honest, like I think that one is also possible. If the Dolphins are at full health, I think they could do something there because the Texans haven't been as convincing as we all thought they might be. Although I still think they're shoe-ins to win their division. And then the other one's the Niners. So that's obviously a tough one with the Niners having everybody kind of coming back healthy and things looking up there. But, you know, I still look at it and go like, you know what? You win the Texans one, you maybe lose the Packers and the Niners ones. You'd end on 9 wins at the end of the season, but that might be enough for that final wildcard spot, especially if you beat the Jets twice. Mikey, what do you make? What do you make of the Jets, but also the Raiders? Like they've announced Minshew's in again as starter. Is that the right call?
My worry is that Antonio Pierce has kind of wielded the chop and fired everybody and all that, and it's like you sometimes get a little coach bounce, if you like. But I mean, the talk this week was the Raiders had another team meeting where they were all, and it's like, I mean, this is a Raiders team that beat the Ravens. It's like, and it's like.
To be fair, Mikey, like so, you've lost to the Raiders, you've lost to the Browns, and you've lost to the Chiefs.
Kansas City,
yeah. So that's apart obviously the Chiefs are the Chiefs kind of thing, and that was week 1. And I never really count week 1 because I'm always like, it's
no, and the mad thing is I'm not talking about the Ravens, but it's like self-inflicted against the Raiders and then self-inflicted against the Browns as well, and it's like so. But they are a team that has potential, but more on like the defense. Offensively, I think they're just. I don't know. And they lost, I think it was one of their row line last week got injured, so they had to put their replacement in. So Dolphins, D-line and Calais Campbell and all that are picking up and getting better. So I think that'll be an interesting, especially with the fact that the backup QBs in kind of thing, or new starting QB. But and like you guys have said, I think the Dolphins favourably have been trying to find themselves. Tyreek wasn't great, but he's starting to come on and picking up catches. I haven't seen anything on the Dolphins this week. I don't know how Tua is after he got kneed in the head after trying to get that interception back last week. But
he'll never learn, will he?
No, I mean, is the running back from the Dolphins as well was coming out wearing a Guardian cap, and he's like, as if to say, look what I'm doing. Look, you do it. But I think I see the Dolphins win this quite comfortably, purely because I think the Raiders are just in a mess, and I think it'll take them a little bit of time bringing new coaches in and new philosophies and all that. I mean, it depends on whether the team meeting this week counted and the guys are like geared up for it. But I mean, Vegas to Miami, it's one of them. And I can't remember, is this a later game or an early game? Is it earlier?
This is an early game, so it's in the Eastern time.
So I mean, that generally doesn't work well for West Coast teams coming for early games. So I think the Dolphins will do it. But I mean, it might not be an indictment on the Dolphins and how good they are. It might just be that the Raiders are a mess.
Yeah, no, for sure. Andy, your thoughts on this one? Like, how do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, I think Dolphins winning this one comfortably probably makes the most sense. Mikey touched on it a bit with sort of Antonio Pierce, head coach. They've sort of made some moves and seems quite desperate at times throughout the season. Just looks like a head coach that's feeling the pressure a bit. Things aren't really going the way he envisioned it. The defense quite leaky. It's not one of these defenses that's flying around and shutting down teams to sort of 10, 15 points. They've actually, I think, given up 27 points in the last sort of 4 games, or 4 out of 5 games, sorry. Their rushing attack is just not there. I think it's dead last, just pretty hopeless. Zamir White and Madison is it in the backfield, just not being able to.
Madison's been the better of the two so far, at least to my eye. But and I think I know early in the season he was doing pretty well with yards after contact. But the problem is when contact comes before where your O line would normally be, you're not really going to be making that many yards. That you might be going, he's getting more than he should be. But if that only results in like a 1 or a 2 yard gain or just 0, it's not really helping you go anywhere. I agree with this. I think this is another one that's pretty unanimous. I'm going to say the Dolphins, because they really, really have to. They will step up and they will win this, provided Tua can keep himself in one piece. Now, moving on to probably one of the bigger ones in this early window here. Another divisional rivalry. We have the Green Bay Packers in Chicago, off to visit the Bears and Caleb Williams. Andy, 2 of your division rivals. What are you expecting to see from this one?
I don't know. It's an interesting game, isn't it? Sometimes, Chicago at home can just blow teams out, especially with their defense, and sort of make things tricky. But I'm not just going to go and sit and bash Caleb Williams because, the situation's not great. But out of all the sort of rookie QBs there has been coming in to the season, he's had the best situation set up for him in terms of skill position and a pretty elite defense, you would say, for the most part anyway. But I think the Packers, are on paper the better team, but it's one of those games again, I'm not surprised whatever the result's going to be, because the Bears defense can certainly turn the ball over, especially against a QB like Jordan Love, who has that tendency to gamble a bit. I think Green Bay's won the last 10 games or something, though, against the Bears. So they really have owned them, and I'll lean towards them just for that reason.
Mike, or Mikey, how do you, viewing both the Bears and the Packers kind of going into this? I was just quickly looking at the Bears' schedule because I was wondering where they were, where they go from here, because they're obviously that division's very, very close. But looking at who the Bears have to play coming down the line here, it's like the Packers this week, then they play the Vikings, then they're at Detroit, at the Niners, at the Vikings, then at home to the Lions, then they play the Seahawks, so that's a little bit of a let-off, week 17, and then they're at the Packers to end the season. Do we think the Bears win more than one or maybe two more games this year?
I was just going to say the Bears are 4-1, and their 4 wins have came at home, and they lost last week to the Patriots. So I thought they would beat the Patriots. I cannot see the Bears winning on the road. They're just not a good road team.
Yeah.
Their wins, if anything, are coming from their home games because they seem to play a little bit better, albeit last week they didn't. They have a pretty much points for, points against average, like nearly net zero type thing. They're not one of these like scoring modes or defensively. And in their conference are 2-2, so it's one of them that I look at their fixtures and I think if they win another 2 games and they kind of get to that 6, treat it as a good learning for Caleb and what he's got for the season. But I don't see it. I think Green Bay they're a bit flip flop team that some weeks you look at them and you go, these guys are legit, and then next week you're like, where did that come from? But I still think, I think what you said there about Green Bay have kind of got that record against them. It's a little bit like when Amon-Ra showed up to Green Bay and he's like, Green Bay sucks. I think Green Bay will be showing up to the Bears and being like, Chicago sucks type thing. It's just the air and the element of confidence with it. And I mean, Packers have got running back help coming back this week with Marshawn Lloyd coming back. Don't know whether he'll play, but he should come back. But I mean, Chicago are like the Raiders; they've just changed their OC and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, I mean, that very rarely happens that you get a good bounce when you change coordinators during the season. Very rarely. There's a lot of Ravens fans who cry out for this when we had certain people and we won a Super Bowl one year, but that's like I think, that very rarely happens. Changing coordinators normally means, right, let's build for next year. So I think the Packers win this. I actually think Matt LaFleur will coach up a game plan that should be pretty comfortable for the Packers. Sorry, Bears fans, because I know there's guys that tune into this that like it, but treat it as a great learning experience for Caleb Williams, and hopefully he can get some good reps out of it and then build on it. So that's what I would say.
Yep. No, that's fair. Andy, how do you think this one's going?
I'll go with the Packers in this one, but it's almost like a must-win game for the Packers, really. Like you'd mentioned the division and to keep pace with the Lions and the Vikings. And I think the schedule, if I remember correctly, is quite favourable for themselves. So they'll fancy themselves to be getting double-digit wins. Both teams will ahead of them. So you can't really drop this one, fall to 6-4. You could be 3 games behind, 4 games. But the tiebreakers as well against the Lions could come into it as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, just quickly kind of looking at the Packers' schedule as well moving forward. Obviously, Bears this week, but then they're playing the Niners next week, then the Dolphins, who again, like as we're saying, like they're, that's to me, it's kind of a coin flip. Like if Tua is still healthy, then they play Packers play the Lions. They have the Seahawks as well. They do have the Saints still to go, and you think they should probably win that one, but then they're back at Minnesota week 17, and then they play the Bears again in that final game of the season. So even for the Packers, it's not I wouldn't say it's the easiest run in. It's maybe just because of the Saints and the Seahawks and the fact they're playing the Bears twice. They should kind of get enough wins in here, but if they do lose this one to the Bears, then they're in trouble, kind of thing. Like
if you look at it, Stu, right, if the Packers are sitting in 7th place in the seedings for the playoffs, so 3rd place in their division, but they're 7th, and they have the Niners, the Seahawks and the Rams all breathing like they've got playoff aspirations. If the Packers lose, I think the probability goes down to like nearly 50% to get in.
Yeah.
If the Packers win, they're around about 80% to get into the playoffs. So I think in a game, if they want to be a playoff team, they have to win against Chicago because, like you said, to play them again, it's get that on the board. And especially when the other teams are got to be breathing down, because I don't think they can keep up with the Lions and the Vikings.
Yeah.
So they're playing for that seeding place, and that's where I think it comes in.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think where I'm going to go with this one, again, this is the unanimous one. I'm going to go Packers as well. Just I feel like they are as good as the Bears' defense is, and it's fantastic. And I think that is something that Bears fans can hang their hat on for next year. Is like you've got that Bear defense back that you were famous for years, kind of thing. It's that you've got it. And they're roaring, like they're right there. Williams, he should just take all of this as a learning experience and he can grow from it because he's showing flashes and he's showing he can be good. But regardless of whether he was the first pick or first overall pick or not, he's still a rookie quarterback, and it's a big jump to go from college to the NFL, and there's a big kind of change in the playbooks and what you need to learn. And he has shown growth. He's maybe stepped back a bit the last couple of weeks, but the guy's showing growth and he'll know what he needs to do heading into next year. So we'll see how he goes from there. But this week, though, I think Packers are going to take it. So now moving on, this is our last game we're going to be talking about in part one here. We're heading to New Orleans, all the way down in Louisiana. The Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston, ex-Saint, he's heading back there to New Orleans. I don't know if we want to call it a revenge game or not, but it's certainly a kind of a bit of a return to a former home game for Mr. Winston. Andy, what do you make of this one? Derek Carr's back in. Obviously, Winston, as we said, he'll be playing for the Browns. How do you see this one going?
Well, the first thing I've gotten written down is Winston revenge game. So it is.
It's a revenge game.
The last play would have been when he went against Dennis Allen's decision, was it? And to run that touchdown in for Jamal Williams back in end of last season. So it's interesting, him coming back. This is a game that I think, honestly, anything could happen in this game, and it would not surprise me. Whether the Browns win by 15 or it's the Saints or it's a close game, just because it's two teams I don't really know. Hard to predict. Saints defense did turn up last week. That was quite positive for them. And like you say, Derek Carr's back in now. I don't know. It's not two playoff teams we're looking at here, but moving forward for both teams, you're just looking Browns identity-wise, defense. Yeah, again, are they looking at this season as players sort of, I think, like Emerson, the cornerback, there's a couple of players that they might be looking at sort of, you need to show us what you've got, or we might blow this thing up come sort of end of season with the way sort of this season's panned out.
Yep, yeah. No, I think that's kind of fair. Like Mikey, like what do you make of them? I guess actually, especially kind of talking from the Browns side, just seeing as they're one of our divisional rivals. Like, what do you think they can do in this game to maybe eke out a win against the Saints?
I'd like the Browns to win, just so they get a higher draft pick, so like a lower draft pick.
Yeah, that's just it. Is like this game could decide that. This could be a key game in deciding those.
Yeah. I'd like that one just so that they don't get a better player, and because I think Winston will want to prove a point. I think last week the Saints got a little bit of a bounce back with the new head coach, like their new coaching and all that, and they'd snapped that losing streak because they looked great, and then they just went on that crazy run. They legitimately, though, they should have lost last week. They didn't, so good on them. They won, but I think with it being in their home and that, I think they might squeak it. But I mean, it's Valdez-Scantling kind of had a breakout. It was great for them last week, wasn't he? And scored points. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this week. But the Browns' defense keeps them legitimately in any game. And if Jameis shows up and plays good complementary football, maybe. But the worry I would have is Jameis always likes to make a point, and because it's going back there, that his head will be in the clouds a little bit, and I think the Saints will end up winning it. But yeah, as I said, if I was being, I'd gladly support the Browns to win so that they just get not as high a draft pick.
One of the few times you've probably said that in your life.
Well, yeah, I mean, but my surname is Brown, and yeah, I'm like, it's like, yeah, so. But
no, fair play. Like, I think, like, for me, looking at that game, I sort of going all the way back to what Andy was saying at the start. It's one of those where I don't think I will be surprised by anything that happens in this game. Like, it could finish 6-3, or it could finish like 40-12 for either one of the teams, and I would just know it. Oh well, that happened. So I guess we'll just look forward to seeing it, kind of thing, on Red Zone, and seeing how it all plays out. But I guess putting me on the spot and make me choose a team, I'm gonna go. I'll go Saints. Just they're at home, and I fancy Derek Carr to be better than Jameis Winston, and that to be the difference. Like, just the quarterback play there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because I think there will be turnovers in this game, and then it's hard to predict what score is going to be. So I'll probably stick with the Saints, and the reason being just Alvin Kamara. Can they get him the ball, whether it's through the air, whether it's on the ground? He's a bit of a utility player. But yeah, you're right, Mikey. The Browns defense can keep them in any game. So
yeah,
toss up for me. But I'll go with the Saints.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. So, well, that kind of brings us to the end of the first part of the Gridiron Crew this week for the preview crew for week 11. So if you just stick around for a minute here, like anybody that's listening live, we'll end the stream and we'll restart it, and we'll get part 2 going.